Hey, welcome to Comic Toy Reviews. On this video, I'd like to talk about Gundam model kits, and basically it is a how-to or a tutorial for people who have never put a Gundam kit together or knows what these things are about. If you know what Gundam is about, if you know these model kits and what they're about and how to put them together, then this video is not for you, because I'm not going to be teaching you anything you already don't know. You probably even know better than me. Okay? So if you don't know what Gundam is about, or really what these kits are about, then hopefully this video will inform you more. It's going to be a pretty long video, but it's going to be a good one, so stick around. First thing to notice is that there's a couple of different models here. If you see this one, HG, that means high grade. If you look at the box size, it's pretty thick, right? Okay, pretty thick. You look at this one, this box size is pretty big. It's called the Master Grade. You can see it here, MG. Master Grades are 1/100 scale, which is about 7 to 9 inches. HG is called High Grades, are about maybe 4 to 6 inches overall, sort of smaller. Between the two lines, these Master Grades will probably cost you between $40 to $60. Prices are going up on them, but these high grades, which you'll see here, are probably between like $15 to $25, much more affordable. I would start with the high grade 1/144 scale, because there is a lot more models to choose from. It is a lot more diverse, and they produce a lot more of these models, and you could find them much easier. In other words, they're more accessible and basically cheaper, and they're easier to build up many models in that scale. You can see there's actually different lines here. On the high grade here, it's called 00. You'll see it by the 2 O's at the end. That is one different series than this one, which says Gundam Seed or Seed Destiny. That is a second different series. And this one, HG, again high grade, but the Universal Century. That means these are models from different anime series and different basically timelines, and that they're not related. Okay, I would say the most accessible one for a new Gundam watcher is definitely the one I started watching with, 00. It's 2 seasons, 50 episodes, and 1 movie. It is definitely the most accessible to any new viewer who wants to learn about the series. From the first episode on, you'll get what it's about, and it'll really help you just to experience Gundam. One thing to know on these kits, if you see a kit like this, very small like this, they're usually like $5 to $8, and it doesn't say HG on it, I would avoid it. These are very early model kits that were cheaply made, and for the $5 to $8, they're pretty frustrating, and I'll talk more about it soon why, and it's not worth it. So if you see a real cheap kit, it's probably one of these, not worth it. If you see something in the 15 to 25 range, it's probably a high grade, definitely worth it. This little video is to give you a comparison in scales between Gundams and other action figures. In the back, you see the Blue Beetle. That's a DC Classics. In front of him is a Johnny Storm Marvel Legends. Right here is a G.I. Joe Snake Eyes. On the left here is the 1/100 scale Master Grade Gundam. RX-78 is the name, but you could see this scale compared to the Legends, compared to G.I. Joe. And what we're going to be focusing on in these videos is the 1/144 scale Gundam, which is these type in size. So I want to show you the comparison shot between this, of what you'll probably be building or starting out with. As I said, there are much more of these available, they're cheaper, they make a lot more of these figures, and it's just overall easier to collect and build. I want to show you the scale between that, G.I. Joe, Marvel, DC, and this, the much bigger scale, but also more expensive, and they make less of these. Here's a look between the 144 on the right and the 100 on the left. Try to give you a size comparison there between what's going on. So it goes about maybe a little higher than the waist. But what's really cool is when you combine a bunch of these 144s together and put them in a display, it looks really nice. I'll show you that next. But what's really cool is if you get a bunch of these 144 scale models together, it builds up quite an army of characters that you could have on display all together. They work really good together when they're the same scale. And just want to give you a little preview of that. Some models will have stands, or you could buy them and configure it. I'll talk more about that a little later. But just to give you like a combined shot of, if you have more than one, it looks really cool. One alone could look okay, but usually I like Gundams all combined for displays. One thing I like to point out with Gundams is usually it's not a rule for all of them, but usually for the most part it's true. If you're starting out, sometimes you just like to look at a model. You might see a bunch of models online and just the style catches you, the visual look of it. And that's how I bought quite a few of them myself, was just, hey, they look cool. First of all, they usually have, I'm not sure if the focus is good here, they have no mouth. It's kind of like Optimus Prime, how Optimus Prime's nose and mouth are covered with like a guard, like a mask. The chin usually is red, like right in the bottom of the chin area is red. They have usually a V type of fin on the head. Sometimes it's one V or two sticking up, like in this case. Usually they will have a forehead camera, which is like a little piece on the top. It's a forehead camera. And then they usually will be built humanoid form, meaning 2 arms, 2 legs, the body kind of built like a person. Another thing to know about these Gundams are that they are all driven by pilots. This is not like Transformers where the robots are alive and the robots are talking. No, it's like a vehicle that is piloted by a person. That's the style of the series. And when these robots break down or get destroyed, usually at the end of a season, the next season they'll get a new model, a new robot called a Gundam that will replace the previous version. Usually it's upgraded and more efficient and better than last year's model, let's say. Also to notice is on these models, they all come decked out with various weapons, but one weapon they usually all have, it's this red hilted weapon. It's basically like a lightsaber, so to say. It's called a beam saber. There's some different colors like blue, green, but it's usually for the most part red. And a lot of these Gundams in all the different series have these beam sabers. They can hold one on each hand, so they two-handed, one for each hand. Usually they just have one hand they use it. Sometimes it's used as a backup weapon, sometimes it's used as a main weapon. And speaking of Gundams, everyone is usually equipped with a different style of weapon. This one, for example, is equipped with a huge sword, and others usually equipped with various types of guns and stuff like that. These are usually, you could consider them armed military vehicles. For the most part, they do not transform into things like tanks and boats and stuff like that. But some of them do transform into airplanes, for example, or fighter jet modes. Usually you'll see that once in a while, but for the most part, they stay as robots and in robot form only, because they're not converting into something else. For the most part, as I said. This is the no grade, which are these. They don't make these anymore, so what you'll find now is the high grades, but those are the example of the $5 to $8 kits that you might hear about. And the one thing is, to make it look good, this took me probably like 6 hours of Gundam markers and painting and repainting and fixing it up again and again to get it to this level. Cause in its own right, it really looked terrible. And that's the thing. If you buy the high grades now, as I'll show you in the comparison shot next, even if you don't add much marker paint or any detail to it, it's already good out of the box. But these no grade ones, these early ones, just terrible. For example, I had to paint the shoulders black here, this area, the neck area here, most of the face on the detailing there, the sides here were painted, the shield area, the elbows, the hands, the whole skirt area here, the knee area. I had to put some detail on the feet, and it's just really, I had to put the details in the back. It was a lot of work, and the articulation is, this is about it. The head will move side to side a bit. Okay, this part comes off, I'll just take that out. The arms will move just up and down, no elbow articulation, no wrist articulation, no waist articulation. The feet only move a little bit, but they're hampered by the skirt. No knee articulation, and the feet move a little bit. This one didn't come out so successfully. One of the things I'll talk about later on is that if you use light color markers on a dark color like a black or a green, the light colors like white are not gonna have a good color. It's not gonna go through well. Unless you want to really are a good customizer and you really want to use primers and paints like that, but you know, that's advanced stuff. But on this one, I actually do like how this one came out, but it took a lot of effort. Now I'm going to show you how dynamic the Gundams now are, and that you don't need a lot of marker paints or anything like that, and how awesome they look. So watch for that next. Now compare what I just showed you before to this. These are the high grades. Just trying to show you both how they look as a group, as well as how much more articulated they are. And the styles can be so diverse in how they're built. And this is a great example of posability. For example, here you got posable ankle articulation. The knees are double jointed. The hips there, they swing out. You could spin this part around 360. They go up and down real good. Waist articulation, the head 360 as well as up and down. Shoulders 360. Bicep joint here can move on the upper bicep, as well as also double articulation in the elbows. The hands and wrists 360. The wrists also have a joint to move up and down. And if you have special parts like on this, the shoulders have parts that can move, and the articulation, even though this guy is big, he's definitely decked out and could be articulated well. Just like this guy carries so many guns. He has 2 guns here, 2 there, 2 at the hips, 2 carrying it, and he has shield generators right on the legs and the bottom and the shoulders. He's all decked out for war. This one is great. These are supposed to be all separated. They're shield bits. This is like an army look to it. And then this one, let me see if I could get the color here a little better. This orange one, it's all decked out. You can see the 2 thruster rockets there, like his thruster-like backpack, I should say. He has diverse weapons. This group shot, these are actually from the Gundam 00 series, is that basically you could see the diverse colors. You got the orange, the green, white with a little black and some darker colors. This one is usually blue and white with a little red. But this shot I'm trying to get right here is to show you how cool it can look in terms of articulation and in style. And these are the type of Gundams you'll buy in the 1/44 scale in the high grade scale nowadays that they make. This is the style they make, as well as the articulation. Some figures come with bases like this, little bases. Usually they don't have these little bases, and they charge you like a fee for like $5 or so, depending on the grades and stuff like that. But there's ways to improvise and make bases, which I'm looking into, but I haven't made a video yet on it because I myself have not had a good display that when I complete all the models I want to make at some point in the future, then I want to make a display and just rock it all out. Just have an awesome display with that. So that's an example of a group shot, as I said, of they look good together, these figures. Now that we took a look at them, let's get into the building materials of the basics that you need to build a Gundam, and let's take it from there. First thing you need is the Gundam kit. You'll either buy it at a convention, maybe on eBay, maybe online from somewhere. This is not a thing you will find in Toys R Us or in stuff like Target or Walmart. It's not going to be there. These are import items. They're made by Bandai, but they're imported from Japan or China or overseas, basically. As you can tell, there's no English. The text is in Japanese. Okay. As I said, conventions, you could get these. eBay, Amazon sells them. They have dealers on Amazon. Just do some online research. Here we go. Let's open it up. You get the instruction manual. Good thing in the instructions is you could see over here when you want to detail the paints or markers that you want to apply extra paint to. Take a look at it. The instructions are in Japanese, but the pictures are in English. This will make sense. For example, we'll get into it. Let me see if this shows up. It'll say like A10, which means part A10, PC1, which means you get the PC1 frame, PC4, it tells you where to put it together, then A11 puts it all together. But we'll get to that in a second. Here, the frames. Each of these frames comes in plastic bags. If it's not in a plastic bag, that means it's been opened and used. The reason this is in a plastic bag is that it preserves the parts. And here's something important to notice. When you have these plastic bags, before you open it, make sure there's no loose parts, because sometimes some of these parts will come off of these wire frames. Some people call them tree frames or wire frames, so I might use both words in this description. So you get these tree frames, right? Okay. You look at each bag, you might see a loose part. So before you open it, if there is a loose part that came off the frame, you want to make note of that part, because sometimes you might open the bag, not notice the part, it falls, and then you need it later on, and you didn't even notice you lost the part. So you want to make sure nothing is loose in there. Plus you always want to make sure this important part, the stickers, doesn't get lost when you open the bag. Because if you open the bag and these stickers get lost, it's really going to hurt your model. Plus they usually have the all-important sticker, which is the eyepiece, the two eyes. And if you miss the eyepiece, that means you'll have to paint on the eyes, and that takes some real skill. So you do not want to lose that sticker sheet opening the bag, because it has the eyes. Very important. And you don't want to open any of these bags and lose a small part because it came off the frame. So that's why it's in the bag. So make note of that. I'm going to open up the bags now and show you the next step. This is the next step. Once you have the wire frames, each one will have a number. You can see this one, it says A right there. You want to look for that number. This one says B. This one says C. Depending on the model of the frame, you might get 4 frames, you might get 6, you might get 8. It just all depends on the model. There's no set variable of how many frames a model is going to have. And usually this part, it's tough to see. It's called PC. Usually you'll see these little things. I usually put these on the side because these contain all the connecting points like the kneecaps, the elbows and stuff like that. And I got the stickers here, as I said. You want to put the stickers on the side, and this PC part, usually you'll see on the side. How I lay the frames out is in order, like here, example A, B, C, 1, 2, 3. Or you might want to put it like A on top, B on the bottom, C here, D here. And you want to have the sequence because it makes it easier to find pieces. When I started out, I would just throw frames up like this anywhere. It didn't matter. And then as I would look at the instructions, oh, they want frame B, I'd have to look through all the frames, which is B, which is C, where is the frames, where's the pot. By having a sequenced order where it's laid out, wherever you're building it, if it says pot A, your hand will just go pot A. You don't got to think about it. Or it says C, you don't have to think about it. You know where C is. So the structure I would use is either A, B, C like that, or A, B, C, D, E, F, and just have a pattern when you laid out these frames. So when you're building it, you will have ready to go. You'll know where what you need is. And that's why I keep this part separate from that sequential order, because this part you just put on the side like the stickers, because they will always come in handy and you'll need them as you're building the frame and building the Gundam. Next part, I'm going to show you the basic tools of the trade that you need to put these Gundams together, and some suggestions of what you should have. So you bought a Gundam, and these are the only tools of the trade that you need. Right here, a pair of scissors, small pair, but you want to make sure it's all metal. Do not get one with plastic at the end, because I had those and they break. You want it solid metal, straight on through. Those will come in extremely handy. You want a nail file. You know this part has usually that sharp, you know this part of the nail file has this sharp end here. You're going to use that for sanding. You want an eraser, which will come in handy. You want to use a small nail clipper. Sometimes it has a little sanding thing at the end. That's cool too if you got that. You want to use a toenail cutter. This one right here, you're going to use the inside point, not the outside point. The toenail cutter was like 10 bucks, and the scissors also could be kind of expensive, but really need it. Some people have different methods of cutting it, but that toenail cutter, just huge. I mean, really made things easier. I'll get also why you need the scissors a little later. You definitely need that little like sanding thing. Usually use that to sand the nails. An eraser, simple, you'll find that anywhere. This is only recommended but not essential. If you want a pair of markers, these are like 4 bucks each Gundam marker, but I've had them over 2 years because, you know, they really last if you keep the cover on. But you could get a set of Sharpies people use. Sometimes you go to the store, you'll see like a 8-pack of Sharpies. That's good enough. If you're really serious about Gundam, you'll get some markers later on, but all you need really is Sharpies, a good set. Just don't get those dollar store markers because they're crap. Believe me, you don't want the dollar stores, you want Sharpies if you can't get Gundam markers. Here are the basic colors that you really need. Straight up black. Essential. Black comes in very handy. This one is GM10, it says. You want gray in color. This one is GM12. You want red in color. Hold on a second. GM07. Red. You want blue. GM06. You got the basic colors of gray, black, red, and blue. You'll really be rocking. But if you want some extra colors, I would recommend GM11. GM11 is white. GM08, that's yellow. Yellow comes in actually quite handy also. I got GM09. This small one is for panel lining. You really don't got to worry about that. This is more advanced. It's called GM01. one that really comes in handy, I can't recommend this enough, GM18. GM18 is a metallic green, and this metallic green has come in so handy in Gundam 00 models, specifically the 00 series. This GM18 I've used a lot, and I'll show you just an example of how great it is right after this. But that's all the tools you need. You could use a set of Sharpie markers if you want, but if you want the basic Gundam colors, I would recommend black, gray, blue, red, white, yellow, green, and definitely metallic green. You need a eraser, nail cutter, a little sander, which you know, the sanding, use that for the fingers or toes, but you can use it for this. Forgot to mention you could use sandpaper. People do use sandpaper, but I don't. That's real optional, sandpaper. You want a small metal pair of scissors, make sure it's all metal, and you want this toenail cutter, again, all metal. You can find them at Target, you can find it just in department stores, stuff like that. So let's get to the next part of the video, but before then I'll just show you the metallic green in action. This is the metallic green in action, right here in the knees. Oops. Right here in the knees, the elbows, the head. Basically, a lot of these 00 kits will have a need to give you a sticker, but it just looks so much better in terms of style if you color it in. What it is, it's a piece of plastic, clear piece, but you color the inside of the clear piece with the marker, let it dry, and then when you put it on the figure, the inside part that you painted is on the inside, and the outside part is the clear plastic. As you can see right here, the green, it just really shines the metallic green, and it does look fantastic. That's why right here on the chest symbol, it's metallic green, the sides there. And also, another little tip is that right here, see that red piece at the top? That was a sticker on the forehead, but I colored the clear piece on the inside with the red marker, and the red marker it looks so much better on the clear pieces to paint the inside of it instead of using stickers. So right there you can see the red as an example, and you could see as an example the metallic green in action. Hopefully it came out decent enough in this video. The focus I know has been going off, but just want to show you why metallic green, really handy, and it's not a common color, and I've only seen it on Gundam markers. Next part is to follow the instructions, follow it in order. Usually goes down like 1, 1, 1, 2, 2, 3, 4, 5. Just follow the sequence in building these pieces and try not to get lost. So right here is A10 they're looking for. So this is the A part of the frame. Each one has a number. It might be hard to see, but it says like 4, 5, and we're going right to 10. Right here, A10 is this piece. So what you're going to do is get these clippers. Gonna be tough to do it here. And just go right in. Go right in. You want to use the inside part of the clipper right here, not the outside. And then you want to clip out this part from the frame, turn it around, clip out this part. Hold on a second while I do that. Alright, the part is free. If you look close, I'm sorry the camera's out of focus here, but there is little residual, like a little nub from where you cut the piece out, and it sticks out a little bit. So what you want to do is get the nail clipper, and then it's hard to do this, but you're gonna use the nail clipper and then go to that little nub and just snip it off on all the corners that you took it off the frame. So it's like every little corner. Once you've cut that little nub out, try to make it as smooth as possible. You get that little sander here, right? Sorry it's out of focus, but what you're going to do is just sand it a little bit on all the corners that you took it out of the frame. You might leave a small residual part to cut it out of the frame and to sand it, but that's just very common. The more advanced people will know how to use glue and things like that to get rid of all the little bits, but it's even more advanced than me. But okay, but so you just basically took it off the frame, you cut off the piece, then you used a little nail clipper to make sure the ends were you cut off the ends a little bit. Then you used a sander and you just sand it a little. If it's on white pieces, usually you're not going to notice any little marks after it. But if there's darker pieces like grays or dark green, you might see a little like a white residual thing where the nub was, where the little piece was. But that's okay, that's just very common. Okay, nothing bad, nothing wrong with that. So you got the piece set up, and you do that for each piece. Here, for example, is that PC plot, the joint that I talked about. And you're going to find it here. It says PC1, so you look here, and right here, PC1. So you take that out, put that at the side. It said also you need a PC4. You find that in the frame here. You remove PC4, just following it, and then it says here, A11. So I'm going to cut that piece out. You find it here, A, and then you look, A11, right here. That's A11. And then, okay, and there's one more part here. It's called PC6. It's hard to see, but again, you always got to look at the instructions. So you got one part here, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. You take a look here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. On the main parts here, you already took them out, you sanded it a little, used a nail clipper. On these PC parts here, just to note, like these little parts here, you usually do not have to sand it, and you don't have to use the nail cutter, because usually when you take it out of the frame, this little frame, it's good to go. So what I'm going to do is just what the instructions say. You get one part here, okay, then you're going to get these two, wait a minute, it's going to be basically like this, one part here, two there, one piece on the bottom, this part will be in the front, and this part will be at the top. So it's 6 pieces, and I'll show you how it looks together. Check it out, here is the combined piece. Hopefully it's going to come in clear. Basically the two side corners here, 1 and 2. There's a bottom piece here, 3. The two frames covering 4, 5, and 6 right here. That is the first piece built. And if you look here, that is the first piece built there. And then you're going to add even more pieces, like this will go there, this will go there, and so on. You're going to be basically build it up. Even though this is one section of the model, it's going to be built up with other pieces. It actually, you have to take your time on this. So let's say you have a 2-hour working day of 2 hours of free time. Let's say you're not done, you come back another time, you have an hour of free time, so on and so forth. You want to take your time and be patient, because you really don't want to screw up the parts. Even me, once in a while I'll screw up a part. Let's say, for example, you forgot to install this part right here. What do? You forgot to put a piece in here, or it's the wrong part, and you sealed it in, and what could you do? Things like that happen. That's why the scissors come in handy. These scissors that I pointed out earlier, besides cutting them off the frame, it depends. Sometimes I like to use the nail cutter, but sometimes these also could be good. If you have a sharp end here on the scissor, a little pointy end, right in the middle of where you had the parts connected, you could actually put this little pointy end of the scissor in between the middle section of the seam, and you want to slowly and patiently pry it out, because as soon as you get this little corner in, you can work it in, work it in, work it in, and go around all the corners of the piece. Every corner you want to go around, and you want to make it loose enough, and then just slowly and carefully pry open the piece, and then it'll open up the piece. You'll put the correct piece in, then you'll seal it again. That's just a very handy tip. That's why you want this. It has a sharp scissor end, and you just want to put it in that little seam and just pry it open if you made a mistake. And you will make mistakes building stuff like this. And you just want to really read the instructions thoroughly and figure out what's going on. Even if you don't know what's going on, which can be the case, you want to just sit there and analyze the picture. Let's say you cut all the frame parts out. You cut all the wires, all the pieces that you specifically need for the next step. You just lay the pieces out on wherever you're working, and then you just analyze, okay, which piece goes in first. But don't attach it yet. Just figure it out without attaching it. Which piece goes here, which piece goes there. And even on the instructions, even though it's written in Japanese here, for example, it's hard to see, but if you have the instruction label sheet here, you can tell by analyzing the way the figures look and the symbols on it and the symbols on the sticker, which piece is going to go where. Not too many stickers on these models, but you want to just take a look. And so definitely take your time, take your patience, follow the instructions in order and in sequence. And the only parts you should take out on the frame are that which you need in each step. For example, here I took out only the parts needed in this one step. That's it. I didn't take out any other parts. Then when this step was done, you want to just take out all the parts needed for this step. Don't go ahead, don't take out those parts or those parts. No, just stick to the parts that you need at that specific moment in time. And if you work slowly like that, and you follow the instructions, eventually you'll get to the end, and I'll show you what comes next. But before I go there, I just want to mention that on some of these instructions here, right here, you will see an X, and those X's mean those parts are not used in this model. So the X means you might have some leftovers. What you do with the leftover parts like this, usually on this frame you'll have a few leftover bits, is keep them. Keep the leftover frames and leftover parts, because I've had leftover parts like this that have come in handy in the future. Because let's say I built another model and that same specific part, the piece that they gave me was worn out, or it didn't fit right, or it just came out wrong. You could go to the spare parts that you have in your inventory, and usually the numbers are the same because these parts are usually universal, and then you could use this part for the part that you had on the newer frame. Basically, don't throw away extra parts. That's the lesson, because they might come in handy in the future. After all that hard work, all that frame building, you'll see empty frames at the end. You finally built your Gundam. Awesome job. Just want to be careful with the parts, get used to it. You might want to come back a day or two later. You might want to touch it up, usually with the markers or paints. You just want to, as I said, there's no glue involved in these kits, which is good. And you don't need paints, you could use the markers, which is good. And it is articulated. You might want to look at the instructions. I know it's not the right one, but you want to keep the instructions definitely for future reference. And I'll talk about the frames and the box in a second. So you definitely have the Gundam model. As I said about the bases, you have to buy them separate, but sometimes they come with it. Otherwise you could just like stand them up in a display for now, or make a homemade base. That would probably be a future video. Oops, the pot fell off. Anyway, so you got the model, it's all done, and it's actually a unique work of art because what you built, your specific version, the markers you used, and the style you did it, no one else is going to build a Gundam the same exact way that you built yours. You might have the same model as everyone else, but their specific version of how they built it, and the little details like in the paints and the markings, etc., they're unique to you, the way you built yours. And the only thing then is to look at the leftover parts. As I said, any leftover parts you want to keep, any leftover bits might come in handy in the future. You want to keep the instructions. As for these wireframes, what to do with them? Well, if they're empty, first thing to do to make sure before you throw it away is make sure that you took out all the parts. Go through the numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Go down the line. Make sure. Another thing is you could throw away the frames, but also sometimes you like to keep it. The reason I like to keep some is to experiment. Sometimes you want to put a marker here. You want to test the marker quality on an empty frame. Let's say you have a color, like a blue. You want to see how blue works against yellow. Well, if you have a yellow frame in your inventory, you could use the blue marker and test it out. For example, I tested out green here, I tested out red there. On this frame, I tested out yellow. I tested out how yellow would work on this darker green color. So it's good to keep these frames to experiment with your marker colors on how the marker will react to a certain plastic part. That way, when you're actually making the Gundam, you don't have to test it on the Gundam part itself. You will have a backup inventory of frames to test colors on, see how the color holds, stuff like that. So you might be able to build stands out of these Gundam frames. That'll be another topic. But they're just good to test paints on. The Gundam box itself, as I said, even though the Gundam's built, you could just throw the box away. That's cool. But another cool thing about the Gundam box is, when that is complete, you could actually put your Gundam in the box. Yeah, just make sure like the arms are down and nothing's sticking out. Just using this as an example. Then you could put the Gundam inside the box, and you could store your Gundam model in the box for when you need it, or just so it's safely protected. So that's just little tips. You might want to keep the frames, you might want to keep the box, but you could throw the box out, you could throw the frames out, but just keep the instructions and keep any little extra parts that you may have as extras. And this is the last part of the video. As you can see, I kept quite a few boxes. Hopefully this video tutorial was helpful for anyone planning about or thinking about to build a Gundam, about the tools you'll need, the steps you'll take, the different styles and methods you could use. And that's what I intended this video to be about, just for someone new, someone who has no experience with the property, doesn't know anything about it, how to build it, what it's about. And that's why I built this tutorial, so you could see exactly what you need to get rolling, what to expect getting these models, and how long it'll take. And time-wise, as I said, just take your patience. It'll probably take, especially early on, anywhere from 8 to 12 hours, or maybe even more to build, because you just want to take your time and take your patience with it and really follow the instructions and steps in order. And as you finally build one, it's going to be a cool feeling. You'll probably want to build more in the future. And as I said, having more than one looks great together. And hopefully this video and this video tutorial helped you a little bit understand the property, understand how putting together these figures goes. And in case you have questions or want to know a bit more about Gundam tutorial, leave some comments, write a message, see if I could answer it, see if I could help you out on it. And thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you later. This video is the completed Gundam that you were just watching, that you saw the frames. This base I'm putting here, it did not come with a base, but I'm just putting this here for the display. But this is the completed Gundam that you saw me building. This is actually piloted by a woman, and she is the girlfriend of one of the Gundams in the series. The only paints I added here were, with the markers, were gray here, a little gray on the side, a little gray here, I added some yellow by the neck there. I did some, hopefully it's going to come into focus, some panel lines here. And I just put some black here on the inner, like the inner boosters there. That was it for paints. It's carrying 2 guns. One thing I'd like to point out is why I said you need an eraser is when you panel line it, which is more advanced basically. Might be hard to see, but there's a little groove here, like just like little grooves in there. When you have that little marker I showed, you could put a line in here, and like I'd put the dot in there, and the ink is gonna spill a little on the sides. When you let it dry a little bit, you could use the eraser, the white eraser, to remove the excess ink, and it'll get rid of the ink, but it's not going to get rid of the ink inside the groove. And also on here, for example, when you fill in the color here in the groove there, some ink will spill on the sides. If you have the small scissors, you could use one of the sharp ends and scrape off the excess marker paint that is sticking out. So you could actually scrape it off the plastic, and it's not going to affect the inside area that was painted. So that's why the small scissors come in handy, and that's why the eraser comes in handy. And so that's the completed model that you saw. Pretty cool. Thanks for checking out this long video, and talk to you later.